Living with Robert was like dancing on a tightrope, suspended between the illusion of happiness and the abyss of uncertainty. From the outside, our marriage appeared perfect, a picturesque life filled with shared laughter, quiet evenings by the fireplace, and whispered promises of forever. But beneath that glossy surface lay cracks too deep to ignore. The most unsettling part? His sleepwalking. It wasn't just an occasional quirk. It had been his lifelong companion, haunting him since childhood. And now it haunted me. Every night I would lie awake beside him, my heart pounding in anticipation of what he might do next. Would he wander into the street? Hurt himself, or worse, hurt someone else? Or perhaps uncover secrets neither of us was ready to face? One fateful evening, my worst fears began to take shape. I woke up in the middle of the night, disoriented but aware of something brushing softly against my skin. At first I thought it was a stray breeze from the open window, or maybe even a spider. My blood ran cold at the thought. But as I blinked through the darkness, I realized it wasn't an insect, it was Robert. He sat cross-legged beside me, his eyes glazed over, muttering incoherently under his breath while clutching a paintbrush. Slowly, deliberately, he traced strange patterns onto my feet. Each stroke felt like ice running through my veins, freezing time itself. What terrified me more than anything was the look on his face, vacant yet oddly purposeful, as if some hidden force guided his hand. When morning came, I confronted him about it, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "Robert, did you paint my feet last night?" He stared blankly for a moment before shaking his head, denying any memory of it. But there they were, the swirling colors etched onto my skin, proof that this wasn't just a nightmare conjured by my imagination. That's when doubt crept in, whispering poisonous thoughts into my mind. Was it truly sleepwalking? Or was there something darker lurking within him? Something he couldn't or wouldn't admit? That question gnawed at me relentlessly, planting seeds of suspicion I knew could never be unrooted. The night was eerily silent, save for the faint hum of the wind brushing against the window panes. Anna sat alone in the dimly lit living room, her thoughts tangled like a web of thorns. She had just convinced herself that Robert's sleepwalking episode earlier was nothing more than a bizarre coincidence when an unexpected knock shattered the stillness. Her heart leapt into her throat as she approached the door, her mind racing with possibilities. Who could it be at this hour? Peering through the peephole, she saw him, Leo. His presence sent a jolt of panic coursing through her veins. Before she could react, he pushed past her and stepped inside, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. "Anna," he whispered, his voice low but commanding, "you're mine now." The words hit her like a slap across the face. He moved closer, his movements deliberate and predatory, until their bodies were mere inches apart. His hand brushed against hers, sending chills down her spine. It wasn't affection, it was possession. "Don't fight it," he murmured, pulling her into an embrace so tight it felt suffocating. Every fiber of her being screamed to push him away, but fear paralyzed her. What if Robert woke up? What if he walked in on them right now? The thought alone made her stomach churn. As Leo's lips grazed her ear, whispering possessive declarations, Anna's gaze darted toward the hallway where Robert lay asleep. Each second felt like an eternity, the weight of dread pressing down on her chest. Suddenly, the sound of shuffling footsteps echoed through the house. Both froze, terror etched across their faces. Was it Robert? Had he heard them? Anna's breath hitched as she strained to listen, her pulse hammering in her ears. Leo grabbed her arm, his grip vice-like, and dragged her behind the couch. They crouched there in silence, hearts pounding wildly as the footsteps grew louder. When the noise faded, Anna exhaled sharply, tears brimming in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice trembling with anger and fear. Leo smirked, unfazed by her distress. I came for what belongs to me, he said, his tone dripping with arrogance. His confidence unnerved her further, leaving her trapped between defiance and despair. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting an eerie glow over the room. Anna sat on the edge of the bed, her mind still reeling from the events of the previous night, Leo's sudden intrusion, his possessive declarations, and the suffocating fear that Robert might wake up at any moment. Her thoughts were interrupted when she heard a sharp intake of breath behind her. Turning around, she saw Robert standing in the doorway, his face pale and eyes wide with shock. In his hands was a rolled-up canvas, the very painting he had been working on in secret. His knuckles were white as he clutched it, trembling visibly. "What is this?" Anna asked cautiously, rising to her feet. Her voice wavered between curiosity and accusation. Robert hesitated, his lips parting but no words coming out. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he stepped forward and unrolled the canvas. It was breathtaking, a mosaic of their shared memories, their wedding day, vacations by the sea, quiet evenings under the stars. Each stroke of color seemed to pulse with emotion, a testament to their life together. But instead of warmth or nostalgia, all Anna felt was a chilling sense of betrayal. This was supposed to be your anniversary gift, Robert stammered, avoiding her gaze. His voice cracked under the weight of guilt. I wanted it to be perfect. The explanation sounded hollow, even to him. Anna stared at the painting, her heart pounding. She noticed something odd, a faint smudge near the corner, almost imperceptible unless you looked closely. It wasn't paint. It was ink. And not just any ink, the same shade she'd seen on Leo's fingers last night. A cold wave of realization washed over her. Was this why Robert had been acting so strangely? Was he involved with Leo in ways she couldn't yet comprehend? Why didn't you tell me about it before? Anna demanded, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. Robert flinched, taking a step back. I didn't want to ruin the surprise, he mumbled, but the uncertainty in his voice betrayed him. He couldn't meet her eyes, his gaze darting nervously around the room. Every second of silence stretched like taut wire, ready to snap. Anna's suspicions grew heavier with each passing moment. There was more to this story, something darker, more sinister than a simple misunderstanding. As she looked at Robert, she realized she barely recognized the man standing before her. The distance. The house was finally hers alone, a sanctuary where she could confront the tangled web of lies that had ensnared her life. She had arranged for Leo to come over, hoping to peel back the layers of mystery surrounding him. Who was he? Why did he act so possessive toward her? And what connection did he have with Robert? Her mind raced with questions, each one more unsettling than the last. As she waited, pacing nervously in the living room, every creak of the floorboards and rustle of leaves outside seemed amplified, feeding her growing anxiety. When Leo arrived, his presence filled the space like a storm cloud, ominous and suffocating. He strode in without hesitation, closing the door behind him with a decisive click. You wanted answers, he said, his voice smooth but edged with menace. Ask me anything, Anna. His confidence unnerved her, yet it also fueled her determination. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the chaos swirling inside her. Who are you really? She demanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. Leo smirked, leaning casually against the wall as if he owned the place. I'm someone who knows your husband better than you do, he replied cryptically. Before she could press further, the sound of tires screeching to a halt outside shattered the moment. Both froze, their blood running cold. It shouldn't be Robert. But there he was, standing at the doorway moments later, his face pale and drawn from exhaustion. His eyes darted between Anna and Leo, wide with disbelief and fury. "What is this?" he barked, his voice trembling with barely contained rage. Time seemed to stand still as the three of them locked gazes, the air thick with tension. Anna's heart pounded so loudly she feared it might burst out of her chest. Leo reacted first, stepping forward with an audacity that bordered on madness. "Oh, Robert," he said mockingly, his tone dripping with disdain. "Didn't think we'd catch you coming home early, did you?" Robert staggered backward, clutching the doorframe for support. "Is this why you've been acting strange lately?" he asked, his voice cracking under the weight of betrayal. Anna opened her mouth to explain, but no words came out. She felt trapped, caught in a nightmare she couldn't escape. The situation escalated rapidly as Robert lunged toward Leo, fists clenched. "Get out of my house!" he roared, veins bulging on his forehead. Leo raised his hands defensively, though his smirk never faltered. "Make me," he taunted, his arrogance unshaken even in the face of danger. Anna stepped between them, her body trembling with fear and desperation. "Stop it, both of you," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, they hesitated, the weight of her anguish breaking through their anger. But the fragile peace didn't last long. As the confrontation unfolded, Anna realized the truth was far darker than she had imagined. This wasn't just about jealousy or infidelity, it went deeper, entangled in secrets neither man was willing to reveal. And now, caught in the crossfire, she knew her life would never be the same again. The house was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that pressed heavily on Anna's chest as she stood in the dimly lit hallway. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out the faint hum of the night. She had heard it, a soft rustling coming from the bedroom, almost imperceptible but unmistakable to her heightened senses. Every nerve in her body screamed danger. Clutching a small kitchen knife tightly in her trembling hand, she crept forward, each step deliberate yet hesitant. The cold metal against her palm did little to calm her racing heart. Instead, it only amplified her fear. What if someone or something was waiting for her inside? The thought alone made her knees weak, and she leaned against the wall for support, struggling to steady her breathing. Summoning every ounce of courage, Anna pushed open the door with a creak that seemed deafening in the stillness. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of movement. Then she saw him, Leo, standing beside her bed, his silhouette illuminated by the pale moonlight streaming through the window. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, as though he belonged there, as though this were his domain. He didn't flinch or show any surprise at her sudden appearance. Instead, he smirked, his lips curling into a knowing smile that sent shivers down her spine. "You took your time," he said coolly, his voice dripping with mockery. Anna froze, her grip tightening on the knife until her knuckles turned white. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice shaking despite her attempt to sound firm. Leo tilted his head slightly, studying her with an unnerving intensity. "I could ask you the same thing," he replied smoothly. "This is my place now, Anna. You should know that by now." His words hit her like a punch to the gut. How dare he claim ownership over her home, her life? But beneath her outrage, a deeper fear began to take root. There was something about the way he spoke, confident, almost smug, that hinted at knowledge far beyond what she understood. As her gaze shifted between Leo and the bed where Robert slept soundly, oblivious to the chaos unfolding mere feet away, realization dawned on her. This wasn't just about infidelity or jealousy. Leo wasn't simply a secret lover. He was part of something darker, something sinister. Her mind raced back to the strange behavior Robert had exhibited recently, the cryptic comments, the sleepwalking episodes, the mysterious painting. All of it pointed to one horrifying conclusion. Robert and Leo were connected in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. And whatever their connection was, it spelled trouble for her. Tell me the truth, Anna whispered hoarsely, taking a cautious step closer. What do you know about Robert? Leo chuckled darkly, crossing his arms over his chest. Oh, Anna, he said, his tone laced with condescension. You really have no idea, do you? Your husband isn't who you think he is. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed down the hall. Both froze, their eyes locking in mutual dread. Someone else was coming, and neither of them knew what would happen next. The air in the room was thick with tension, suffocating and unrelenting. Anna stood face to face with Robert, her hands trembling as she clutched the edge of the dining table for support. Her voice shook with anger and betrayal as she confronted him. You don't love me anymore, do you? She demanded, her words slicing through the silence like a knife. It's Julia, isn't it? You've been seeing her behind my back. Robert didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned against the wall, his arms crossed over his chest, wearing an expression that bordered on indifference. Is that what you think? He asked coolly, his tone devoid of any remorse. Anna's eyes narrowed as tears welled up, blurring her vision. Don't play games with me, Robert. I know about Julia. I heard you talking to Leo, your lover. She spat out the word, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions. For the first time, Robert's calm facade faltered, but only briefly. A smirk tugged at the corners of his lips, sending chills down Anna's spine. So you figured it out, he said, almost mockingly. Yes, Anna, there is someone else. And yes, it's Julia. But it's not just her, it's also Leo. Anna staggered backward, her knees buckling beneath her. The room spun around her as the full weight of his confession hit her like a freight train. What are you saying? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Robert stepped closer, his piercing gaze locking onto hers. I'm saying I haven't felt this alive in years. Being with Julia, being with Leo, it makes me feel like myself again. Like a real man. His words were a dagger to her heart, twisting deeper with every syllable. You're disgusting. Anna screamed, her voice echoing off the walls. How could you do this to me? To us. She gestured wildly, tears streaming down her face. And now you bring your lover into our home, parading him around like some kind of trophy? Was this all just a game to you? Robert's cold laughter cut through her anguish like shattered glass. A game? No, Anna. This is who I am now. Someone who doesn't have to pretend anymore. Someone who finally knows what he wants. His words ignited a fire within her, and she lunged forward, pounding her fists against his chest. You ruined everything, she cried, her voice hoarse from the intensity of her pain. Robert grabbed her wrists, holding her still as she struggled against him. Stop acting like the victim here, he snapped, his voice rising. You had no idea who I truly was. None of this would have happened if you hadn't pushed me away years ago. Anna froze, staring at him in disbelief. Pushed you away? Are you serious right now? She shrieked, her voice breaking. I gave you everything, my trust, my love, my life, and you threw it all away for them? Robert released her abruptly, stepping back with a sneer. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending this marriage ever worked, he declared coldly. With those final words, he turned and walked away, leaving Anna crumpled on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The life they once shared lay in ruins, and she realized there was no coming back from this. The weight of betrayal Anna felt was crushing, but it paled in comparison to the revelation that followed. As she sat alone in the dimly lit living room, her trembling hands clutching divorce papers, a breaking news segment on the television caught her attention. The anchor's voice droned on about a pair of con artists who had wreaked havoc across the city, Leo and Julia. Her blood ran cold as their names echoed through the room. According to the report, these two master manipulators had preyed on wealthy families, gaining their trust under false pretenses before swindling them out of money, credit cards, and valuables. They were described as charming yet ruthless, leaving devastation in their wake. Anna's mind raced back to all the strange occurrences over the past few weeks, the mysterious phone calls Robert received late at night, his sudden absences from home, and now Leo's brazen intrusion into her life. It all made sense now. She wasn't just dealing with infidelity or personal betrayal. She was entangled in something far more sinister. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Could she have been one of their targets? Was Robert involved too? Panic surged through her veins as pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Her suspicions deepened when she found an envelope, tucked away in Robert's study, a document filled with cryptic notes and numbers. At first glance, they appeared to be account details for offshore bank accounts. But what truly sent chills down her spine was a handwritten note at the bottom. Phase 2 complete. Transfer funds, Asa, Pap. Beneath it was a scrawled signature, Julia. Anna's heart sank as she realized the magnitude of what was happening. This wasn't just some petty scheme. It was a meticulously planned operation, and Robert seemed to be playing a pivotal role. Desperate for answers, Anna confronted Robert later that evening. "What is this?" she demanded, slamming the document onto the table. His face went pale as he glanced at the paper, confirming her worst fears. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Then, with a resigned sigh, Robert admitted everything. "It started small," he confessed, his voice hollow. "Just a way to make extra cash. But then, things spiraled out of control." He explained how Leo and Julia had recruited him months ago, promising wealth beyond his wildest dreams. All he had to do was help launder money and cover their tracks. "You sold us out," Anna spat, tears streaming down her face. "Our home, our lives, you gambled them away." Robert opened his mouth to defend himself, but no words came out. Instead, guilt flickered across his features, confirming her accusations. The realization hit her like a freight train. Not only had Robert betrayed her emotionally, but he had also put her life in danger by associating with criminals. If authorities discovered their involvement, they could both end up facing serious consequences. As the gravity of the situation settled over her, Anna knew she had to act fast. Trusting anyone, even herself, felt impossible now. One wrong move, and she might become collateral damage in a web of deceit spun by Leo, Julia, and her own husband. Anna sat at the kitchen table, the divorce papers spread out before her like a map of destruction. Her hands trembled as she signed each page, the ink smudging slightly from her unsteady grip. Every stroke felt like severing a piece of herself, her past, her dreams, her life with Robert. She packed a small suitcase, stuffing it hastily with clothes and mementos that still held meaning. As she turned to leave, she glanced back at the house one last time, tears streaming down her face. It was no longer a home. It was a tomb filled with lies, betrayal, and secrets too dark to bury. The news on the radio provided little comfort. A story about a successful liver transplant surgery for Tracy Hooper, a victim of Leo and Julia's schemes, was followed by an update on the legal crackdown against the duo. Authorities warned that those involved in their crimes would face severe consequences. Anna clutched the steering wheel tighter, her knuckles white. Was she complicit? Would they come after her too? The questions gnawed at her as she drove away, leaving behind everything she had ever known. Days later, Anna found herself standing outside the courthouse, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Inside, she would testify against Robert, Leo, and Julia, the people who had shattered her life. But doubt lingered in her mind. Could she bear to confront them? To relive every moment of pain and humiliation? The doors loomed ahead, heavy and unforgiving. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward, but the uncertainty remained. Would justice heal her wounds, or would it only deepen the scars?